It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 511. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
What?
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
I'm gonna make it through this year if it kills me.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hey.
Yes, we are ammo-less, which means Ash is at the head of the list again right now.
I was confused.
We have a really long list of topics because a bunch of stuff got bumped from last week after us deciding that we didn't have any topics and then suddenly making a long list. Windblown.
So yeah, Windblown. Windblown is a RPG or action RPG roguelike by the creators of Dead Cells. It's very fun. Plays very fast paced, kind of like Hades, but way faster.
I was about to say, I feel like the comparison is Hades, not Dead Cells.
I mean, yeah, they made Dead Cells, but yeah, Hades is the closest game to that's the comparison.
Yeah.
It is very fast though in a bunch of different respects, including how fast it kills you. But one of the things that I strongly disliked about it previously was if you were playing in multiplayer and one person died, you went into sudden death, whereas suddenly everybody else instantly dies if they get hit.
Yikes.
They changed this to, instead of instantly dying, you take bonus damage, but you also deal bonus damage. And they also added ways in boss fights to, like, killing ads will get you out of this state and revive your friends. So it's no longer just, you need to play perfectly for the entire rest of the time if somebody goes down in a boss fight. I think this is a significant improvement.
Yes.
It sounds like it, yes.
Yeah, forgiving multiplayer play is good.
Which is good, because it's very fun in multiplayer, even if I'm not very good at it.
I think it's pretty fun in single player, too. I have a ways to go. Like, I know there are a lot of weapons that exist that I haven't unlocked. I haven't beaten the game even on the normal difficulty, which is the one you start on. There are higher ones. I know this because the patch notes said you unlock skins for beating them on higher ones. But very fun game, and I'm glad they fixed what I saw was the largest issue with playing in multiplayer.
Yes. Well, it's a really bad feel to be like, oh, well, I'm not good enough, and so my friend also suffers for that.
Yeah.
I very much enjoy, like, I just got the ability to just hold down the dash button and go, and boy, you feel like you are going so fast.
You certainly just go. There is a dash button in Windblown, and if you dash, like, between platforms, well, first of all, you have to dash between platforms. They're floating islands. But if you dash between platforms, there is no cooldown on your dash. So a lot of times there will just be large sequences of floating platforms that you can just sort of mash through. And once you beat the first boss, you no longer even need the mash. You can just hold the button and it just goes zoom, and it's very fun.
Utopia Must Fall had an update?
It did. This is mostly on here for me to remind everybody that Utopia Must Fall is a great little game. They had basically their first content update. It's not earth-shattering, but they've added some new ships and some new abilities that you can get. There's a few things that are just sort of quality of life for the play style that I prefer, which is nice. Being some things that let you deal with some of the armored ships or nukes and things. But mostly, like I said, I put it on the list tonight to remind everybody that you should try this game.
What is this game?
So Utopia Must Fall, I think I've talked about it a little bit. It's still in early access, but it's sort of what if you had a old vector graphics, aliens are coming to attack your town, but modern.
It's like roguelike Missile Command.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much. It's sort of the the missile command equivalent of what Nova Drift is doing. If Nova Drift is asteroids, Utopia Must Fall is missile command.
Nice.
I went out and
It's
bought
really
it
fun.
immediately after we talked about it last time and played it for several hours, and
Yep.
it's good fun.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm not very good at it, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of how I feel, and I've sunk too many hours into it, but it's just very satisfying to blow up aliens.
It
It's
feels
really
very much like in the same kind of vein as like a pinball game would. It's just kind of like you play for a while in a flow state, and then you crash and burn, and then you play again.
Yep. But yeah, there's new ships, and I don't know that it's in the game yet, but in the patch notes they have a bestiary of the alien ships that's, I think, gonna go into the game eventually. So it's good. It's very good fun, very satisfying. Lots of shiny aliens and explosions in smooth vector graphics style.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sort of game that would run on a toaster, so
Yeah.
it's good fun. So, Citizen Sleeper 2 came out. I have not touched it, but I am interested for certain.
Same.
Yes, it is out. I
It
picked
is
it up.
good.
I consumed it utterly.
I have played a bit of it, but I have not yet either succeeded or failed yet. Just been kind of playing it at a slow pace.
I started it on whatever its normal mode was, and decided I wanted to play it on easy, which I can't remember if that's what I did with the original too.
I don't believe the original had difficulty settings.
I don't think so.
Well, this one has difficulty settings.
So, is this a direct successor, or is it a different story?
Yes.
Okay. Because, like, I know there were, I think, 3 mission packs that came out after I last played. So I kind of felt like I needed to go back and revisit Citizen Sleeper before I play Citizen Sleeper 2.
It does a very good job. I'm going to dance around spoilers as best I can. It does a good job of not requiring you to have played the first one to follow what's going on, but I think you get more out of it if you played the first one.
Okay.
It's a very different structure. Like it's a bit more linear than the first one was, but is going more places. I really enjoyed it. It consumed me utterly for a while. Like 3 or 4 days this week was just like all I'm doing is Citizen Sleeper in my free time.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying what I've played so far. I think one of the things that I have enjoyed, and again, haven't gotten super far in, but Citizen Sleeper and Citizen Sleeper 2 are essentially emulating a pen and paper game, and doing it in a very excellent way. And Citizen Sleeper 2 seems to have added the equivalent of a short little dungeon delve. It's not that exactly, but sort of the Citizen Sleeper equivalent of that. Something that's smaller, bite size. I'm assuming still probably has some impact on the story and characters, but you have a separate objective that is self-contained.
Yeah, there's the new mechanics that they add are pretty cool. There's also in the first one you could eventually just be good at everything, if I remember correctly.
You could
Pretty much.
In this one, you have to make a choice. You at the very beginning you pick a class, and one skill you can never put points in. You are always going to be bad at it. And I actually really like that because it means that I care about a bunch of decisions that I would make that I otherwise wouldn't because I'm like, whatever, I'm just good at everything.
Well, and they give you options for dealing with that also. I think I would be more mad about it if I just could never be good at one thing, but you have ways of mitigating that or dealing with it.
Yeah. It's they do a really good job with it. I agree. If I didn't have those mitigation opportunities, as it were, some of which some of which you can opt out of, and I wouldn't recommend it. I made a choice where I was like, "You out. I am not doing that." And almost immediately, I was like, "Fuck." This is where we're at now. But yeah, it's really good. I love the characters. Like the first one had really, really great character stories, and this one continues have like great character stories and great art.
Yes, very much so.
But yeah, highly recommended. Even if I think it's very different from the original, it's really good.
Also, it's Dwarven Realms Season 3, and Lord, this game continues to become more of a game every time I play it.
I think it is. I mean, it has had its 1.0 release, but I think at this point I can look at it and really say, like, yes, this is an actual game. It's not just a cool idea. There's a lot there. They've changed so much this season with quality of life. There's just a lot to do, and I am pushing farther than I think I have before. Like, I've just always sort of played this game as a way to decompress. It's very chill, auto shooter kind of thing, and didn't really push that hard. And now I'm having a lot of fun sort of alternating between chill farming mode and trying to push, not super hard, but enough so that I can keep seeing all the things that they're doing with it, because there's new mechanics and bosses and dungeons and things that don't unlock until you're like well above Rift level 100. So I've been having a good time sort of messing around with some of that stuff that I haven't seen before, and some of it is newer. And it's not perfectly polished, but there's actual meat on it now. And the crafting is fun. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, the combat is still so satisfying. So yeah, if like folks, if you pick this game up when it was in early access, now I think is a really good time to come check it out again.
It was kind of janky graphics in early access. Has there been a visual overhaul?
Yeah, there has been a visual overhaul. It is still not going to be winning any major awards for its graphics, but it is less janky for sure.
Yeah, they've gone for more of a stylized Blizzard-esque, World of Warcraft-esque appearance for the models.
Yeah.
And so there's some cohesiveness now. Like, originally it was very much, we went to an asset shop and bought a bunch of different things. Like, I'm actually attempting to do some sort of a cohesive build this time around. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, and at least, for a few patches now, they've had the sort of little tutorial piece in the first few rifts to explain, like, hey, you should probably pick one ability for your offhands and stack it, and not just pick
do
four
one of
different
everything.
ones, right? Yeah.
The only real complaint that I have is there's a lot left RNG. So if you're actually trying to do a thing, it's kind of few and far between when you get upgrades to that thing sometimes.
Yeah, but usually I find with the crafting system, I can compensate most of the time. Like when I'm making a build, there's enough things that I care about that I can, if I find an item that is pretty good, I can frequently craft around it to make it really useful. Like for instance, you get things that have an elemental damage type on them, and so my ability that I'm using is wolves, and they do lightning damage. So I'm gonna want to stack lightning damage. But at some point, you get a pet, and the pets will let you. There's a whole series of them, and they all have an option of like your any this um, any fire damage will also apply to your lightning damage bonus. So now when I'm crafting, if something has lightning or fire, then it's still useful to me. So like
Yeah.
there's things like that that sort of make you have more options eventually.
Yeah, I'm kind of going for a whirlwind thing with spinning blades, but it's arcane damage, so I can stack arcane damage or sword damage, or like there's a whole bunch of things that I can do to kind of scale it.
Yeah, and the thing that they added this season are these affinities on your offhand abilities. And so, like my lightning wolves are, they have an affinity of creature and ground, and so there's a whole completely reworked skill tree. Thank goodness, because the old one was not great. And in the new skill tree, you can buff the damage and the like proc rate for reduce the cooldown essentially for your offhand abilities. That is extremely nice.
I don't know what half of the things of the skill tree do yet, but hopefully over time I will figure that out.
And I'm happy to answer questions if you have them, but yeah, the new skill tree is a lot to take in. It definitely took me a minute to sit down and stare at it and figure out what was interesting, and it took me a minute to figure out the affinities thing. And for people playing at home, if you look at your offhand, like under the title of your offhand, it will say what the affinities are, like tiny yellow text.
Yeah, mostly going towards a sword damage path right now. And that seems to be working. But I also should probably like add some survival at some point.
Yeah, you're gonna want that. And the game also like has a lot of affixes and things that play off of unexpected stats. So like there's some affixes that will scale off of the number of potions you have available or the number of inventory slots you have. And so there's ways to buff your builds. I have like 25 potions, and every one of those potions is giving me health, not just when I drink them.
It's just been impressive to watch this evolve over time, and each time there's a major patch, pop back in and see the game a little bit more fleshed out. So I put this next topic on the list because I thought I would probably have some things to say about the Lunar New Year event in Diablo 4, but also like I feel like that event has led me to have some things to say about the game as a whole, and specifically Blizzard's design patterns.
What is the Lunar New Year event supposed to do? I ask as somebody who is playing and partaking in the Lunar New Year event and do not have any clue.
So essentially in the world and in nightmare dungeons, and technically in root holds as well, these special versions of shrines can appear that give you a Lunar New Year buff, and they will show up with like a purple asterisk over them on the mini map. And
I am doing these.
And while the buff is active, you gain rep with the Lunar New Year faction.
Cool.
But also, like, there's only a handful of ways that you can do this. And on Tuesday, I was all excited to, pop back into the game and experience this. And Grace and I were going to run around together and level Lunar New Year faction. But the problem is, any of the ways to gain Lunar New Year faction are not really things that you would want to do in a group.
Nope.
Boo.
And this is the problem that I have with Diablo design in general, and it's kind of a thing that I've had in other Blizzard games, is there's very much these closed loops where if you want X, you have to do Y, and you can only get X from Y. And it doesn't matter if you don't like event Y, you have to do it in order to get the thing from that. So like Lunar New Year event, you can do open world stuff, and that is honestly the fastest way to get that leveled. Or you could do nightmare dungeons, and technically root holds, but like the way that it's designed is so obtuse that like if you're wanting to do one of the dungeon options, realistically what you want to do is kill nothing until you encounter a lunar shrine, and then pop the lunar shrine and try and kill everything all at once. And that is the most optimal way to play, but it's also the most awkward and annoying way to play, which leads you to over-pulling, which in a group scenario means somebody's probably going to die, and then they're not going to get faction for it.
Yeah, it was not particularly fun. And the other way to do it in the open world is a little easier, because there's pretty much one of these shrines in every zone at any given time, so you can bounce around to each zone and look for them and grab it. But it's also slow, because when you pop the shrine, the buff is only up for, I don't know, maybe a minute, if that. And so you pop the shrine, and then you have to run around and try to gather up and kill as much stuff as you can as fast as you can, and then you're done and you have to hunt down a new shrine. And I don't know, it's grindy in a weird way. Like, it's so awkward that I would almost feel better if you just got a fixed amount of rep for each shrine you popped,
Right.
instead of having to like awkwardly also try to kill things quickly on top of the shrine.
Yeah. And I don't know, like I feel like when there is some sort of an event going on, be it this 2-week-long Lunar New Year event or the seasonal event, doing anything in the game should give you some measure of progress towards the thing. And like Diablo 4 has quite a bit of content depth. Like, believe it or not, there's a lot of things to do. But the problem is they're all tightly sequestered to where you get this sort of thing from this event, or you get this sort of thing from this event. So you're kind of just segmented into doing this one thing to get the thing that you need. So like, for example, glyphs are kind of a required part of a build, and you reasonably need to get all of your glyphs to level 46 at least, which is the point. Level 46 is the point in which like you unlock the final form of each of the glyphs. And you've probably not encountered glyphs yet. Glyphs are part of the Paragon system.
No, I have not encountered glyphs.
Glyphs only come from the pit. Pit is basically, well, the glyphs themselves can drop all over the place, but glyph levels only come from the pit, which is basically greater rifts.
I was going to say, greater rifts were a thing previously for leveling up legendary gems.
Yep.
They were, and they're still a thing for doing that. But it used to be that you could do nightmare dungeons as well, but they took this out of nightmare dungeons.
Well, they swapped them, right? So it used to be that the pit gave you masterwork crafting materials and nightmare dungeons gave you glyph levels. And that was kind of awful, and they swapped them. And actually, I prefer it this way if it has to be a fixed thing.
Right, but like I feel like why not both? Just to break it up a little bit, because the problem that you run into is you go through a mode of I am going to grind out my glyphs, and by the time you've ground everything up to 46, you never want to do a pit again. And I feel like a lot of the systems are that way, where I'm gonna hunker down and I'm gonna go do this thing, and now I probably never want to do it again now that I've finished this grind.
Yeah, I mean the seasonal event, right? The Witch Tide. We talked about how much fun this was, and like it was really enjoyable. But I felt like, and I don't know if this is accurate or if it's just my impression, but it felt like the seasonal faction grind was especially long and grindy this season, and you're only getting the faction from I mean, I guess technically you're getting faction from any whispers for the Tree of Whispers, but realistically you're grinding the Witch Tide because you're also getting the witch crafting material from that and some other things that you need from that. And so this event is really fun, but by the time I finished that grind, I was really over it.
Yeah. Like I finished the last 2 levels this morning, and I just put my head down and I ground it out over the course of 5 Witch Tides is about what it took me to get those last 2 levels. And it was just kind of miserable. Like I was just trying to efficiently do these events.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like trying to be efficient in order to finish the leveling grind meant that I was doing things that were not what I was actually being incentivized to do by the game. So the most efficient way would be to go around and do all of the little mini events as fast as possible and then go to a new zone. But as you're doing those mini events, these cocoons spawn, and the cocoons can eventually, spawn enemies that drop things you need, and they also just drop a ton of loot. And so they're really fun, and people congregate on them. But if you're just focused on trying to level your faction, it's really inefficient to stand there and do these events because they don't actually reward any faction.
This sound like I recognize these designs from when I played WoW.
Right. It's exactly the WoW design. Like, and that's why I said this is Blizzard design ethos at work.
But I'm gonna say these designs work great in WoW, a game where everything is permanent, nothing ever resets, and you can always just put this down and come back to it in like a month or a year. But like, I can understand why, I have to get through this grind before this season ends would be soul crushing.
And like some of the destroyer achievements were especially heinous this time around. There was one for the seasonal Witch Tide areas where, so when you're doing those events, it spawns the little root balls on the ground, and you click the root ball, and if you have enough anger with the headless people, it spawns a cocoon. But if not, you like there's a little meter in the top right corner, and if you click that thing when that meter's full, it will be more likely to spawn a cocoon. But Otherwise, it spawns just random things. Sometimes an elite pops out. Sometimes it's just a bunch of legendaries or crafting materials. Anyway, but these things spawn all over the zone every time you complete one of these little mini objectives. One of the achievements that you needed to do as part of the season's journey is open up 25 of these little root balls in 15 minutes. Problem is, we thought we'll be clever. We'll group together, and then we'll go around the zone clicking the root balls as fast as possible, and we'll share basically progress. But no, it doesn't work that way.
Nope.
Oh
Didn't
no.
work.
It is unique to one person. So I got the achievement, but Grace didn't get the achievement.
Womp womp.
And it's a free-for-all. Like, everyone is trying to click these things.
Yeah, they're
So-
not unique to you. They're not your spawns. They're just on the map and everyone can click them.
Oh God. Ima-
So you
So-
have to...
I'm imagining if there had been an achievement in WoW for mining, I don't know, 10 thorium veins within some amount of time.
Yes,
Oh my
it's
God.
precisely
Mhm.
that. It's precisely that. Like, that was annoying as hell. There's some other ones that are just like, I really hope your RNG is pristine. Like, one of them is to do like 2 legendary things in a single root hold, which we got, but you can do a root hold and there won't be any legendary things to click on. So you just have to have perfect RNG on that one. Same's true with the Infernal Hordes. Like, you really kind of need perfect RNG on that one.
Yeah, that one, you have to get a certain amount of the currency in a single run, and, depending on what kind of RNG you get in terms of the buffs that you can add every round, it might be pretty impossible. Or you could way overshoot it. I finished the season journey and then I ran one of those just for fun afterwards for something different to do. And I got like almost 150 more ether than I needed for the for that season journey step. I was a little mad because I had spent time grinding other things instead.
Yeah. But like, it's in this situation where now that I've completed the season's journey, I don't want to touch this game anymore.
Yeah, well, and so the other thing that I find a little bit frustrating is that, like, in order to do all the season journey stuff, you have to get your character pretty built. You have to be able to do everything on T4, and like that's fine. The problem is that when you finish the factions and you finish the season journey, you get all these chests with loot that is useless to you, and also like a million chests full of boss summoning materials. When Bel and I have run all the bosses and gotten all the loot we needed from those bosses ages ago.
Yeah. Like,
So
to
it's
get to
just-
this step, we would have had to have done that. Because basically, uniques drop in lots of different ways. But really, the only viable way of doing it is to do, basically rounds of boss summons, and preferably with another person, so that you're getting twice as many summons. But like, you're having to do that in order to get to the Torment 4 step, pretty much. And sure, there's mythics as like a stretch goal, but mythics are such unobtainium that you're not going to likely get them to drop on the regular. And crafting, like, okay, so you could do various things during the season's journey and during just a season. Like, so your first Lilith kill gets you this thing called a Resplendent Spark. And if you get 2 Resplendent Sparks, you can craft a random mythic. And here's hoping you get a good one and not a bad one. I got a bad one. And then I got the mythic I actually needed to drop from a boss. So that was cool. And then I sharded the bad mythic that I got and used it plus another thing that I got from another seasonal objective to try and craft another mythic, and I got this awful necklace. And then I finished the seasonal Reputation 20 grind and got another Resplendent Spark, and I'm like, oh, I'll shard that awful necklace and see if I can craft another mythic. And I got an exact copy of the same necklace.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's just miserable. So like the optimization, the difference between getting all of the ancestral gear that you need and getting the mythics that you need is such an order of magnitude of difficulty difference. But also, while you're grinding, there's nothing you want. Like, the little purple drop that's a mythic is literally the only thing that you can ever possibly use. So there's no long-tailed grind in this game. There's nothing, like there's no chaos orbs along the way or divines along the way as you're trying to keep spinning the randomizer hoping you get something cool. Like,
and there is a way to craft specific mythics, but that's also a little bit ridiculous because
and getting 6 copies of each rune is some bullshit.
Right. It requires multiple copies of specific legendary runes, and that's not fun to do either.
Yeah, they're also unobtainium. So yeah, it's just I feel like we've talked about this before, where Diablo 4 is now, for me, what Diablo 3 was, where it's kind of fun. It's really fun to level, and it's really fun to get your character online, and it's pretty fun to do 90% of the season's journey, but then once you push across the line, it's just, okay, we're done for another season. And
I will say, you started this by complaining about how terrible some of this stuff was to do in groups. At least the amount of stuff that's terrible to do in groups isn't the entire game.
Yeah. Like, boss summons are really fun, and if you ever get to the end game, Kodra, we will be more than happy to do rounds of bosses with you so you can get the gear that you need. They're fun. Like, that's okay. I would say almost all of them but one are fun.
There's always got to be one.
The lowest tier one is only not fun because it never drops anything useful, but you have to do it to get materials to summon later bosses.
And you end up with like hundreds of spawns for this thing. Like, my bags are just full of the spawn materials for this boss, and and you need to kill the boss to get materials to do actual fun, better bosses, but it's sadness. But at least it's easy.
And you can only do so many in a row because, like, you keep having to go back to town to clean out your bags. But yeah, like the boss chains are fun. Like, that has been some of the more enjoyable game time, is pooling resources and doing a bajillion boss summons in a row. But again, like, I think this is just Blizzard design ethos at work. And this would be a better game if you could just play the game and have a shot at getting all the rewards. I guess on the other ARPG continent, the spoilers coming out for the Not League Phrecia event are kind of wild. So
these are all we're going to have a bunch of like cutting room floor classes.
19 new Ascendancies.
It's the bloopers reel.
Like, some of these are wild.
A lot of things are not going to go properly or well, but it should be fun to watch.
Yeah, like very much each one of these feels like it's leading towards a specific build or a specific style of build. They released spoilers, I think, on Friday for 2 that interested me. One is basically Val Skills Matter, and it's essentially like a whole toolkit of being able to build a character around a Val skill, but use it like it's a normal skill. Because like your soul gain is going to be so much faster than it normally would. And there's also a bunch of stuff that like only shows up on Val themed uniques that are now just like Melting of the Flesh, for example, which I think is a gem or a jewel. It's just now a part of this Ascendancy, the whatever they're calling the Trial Master / Chaos one. There's another one that's just like a bunch of poison things, like the spider summon from the Aracali's Fang dagger is now just an ability on an Ascendancy. Envy, which is on one of the Breach uniques, is now just an ability on an Ascendancy. So like I feel like that could make an amazing poison SRS build.
See, I saw that and I started thinking Herald of Agony.
I mean, you could do
Because
it.
combining Herald of Agony and Aracali's Fang is already a thing people like to do.
Yeah. God, I'm trying to think of what the other ones are. One of them is just the bad ideas class. Like, it's called the Gambler, and everything is like you are either doing lots of damage or no damage. So can you play around with the bonuses and diminish the negatives? The Witch is basically it turns you into a Harbinger. So you get the blue Harbinger appearance and float, and also can summon like Harbinger bosses as pets, I think as temporary pets. And all these things already exist as things that are on Harbinger uniques, but are now just part of an Ascendancy. I have no idea what the map device thing that they teased is, but it looks a lot like the Sanctum Relic, like inventory, but on the map device. It's going to be interesting.
Are you still doing Pox League?
I'm still doing Pox League. I am almost to 100 maps unlocked on my Atlas. This is far from the most stable and tanky build I've ever made, but I switched over to Ice Trap of Hollowness and switched to Sunblast and Carcass Jack, and now when I drop traps, they basically cover the entire screen.
I mean, if you get enough evasion on that build, that build can also be pretty freaking tanky.
If I were in Trade League, this build would be infinitely better than it is.
That's the way things work, yeah.
The items just don't exist in Pox League, or are multiple divines for something that would be, 10 to 20 chaos in Trade League. So, like I am making it work for what it is and the gear that I have access to. And it works shockingly well. And we'll see how this goes, because I have the invitation for Searing Exarch. So we'll see how well I do that. I'm having fun. I mean, it's a totally different class than I've ever played. I've never played a Shadow before. Not really to any length of time. I've never played a pure Trapper. So
you're using Sunblast, you can barely call yourself a pure Trapper.
I mean, I was a Trapper until I got Sunblast.
I guess that's fair.
Like, I leveled exclusively as a Trapper. Like, I leveled with Explosive Trap and then switched to Ice Trap whenever I could. Though technically I used Lightning Trap for a while, and Lightning Trap is amazing.
Lightning Trap's major problem is people just compare it to Spark, and it doesn't always come up favorably.
No, but, I mean, for a trap ability, it sure does a lot of coverage. Spirit Swap.
I put this one on. I have been waiting for this game to come out for I don't even know how long.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and it's finally out, and you can go buy it, and you should. It's cute.
Is this lo-fi beats to match 3 too?
It
Yes.
is.
But like when it says match 3, you shouldn't think Bejeweled. You should think Tetris Attack.
Yes, it is. It is a match 3, but has some specific limitations. This definitely got to focus on battling, whether it's battling NPCs or battling other players. but it's got nice music. It's got really cute art. It has like a fun story. Not super far into it, but it's just incredibly cute, extremely gay. I love it a lot. And the actual gameplay is fun and satisfying.
I ended up picking it up. I've just not played it yet.
I need to check and see if it works well on deck. It seems like it would be a good choice for that.
I would imagine it would.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would hope that it would, but I haven't tried it yet.
I feel very dumb that this is Spirit Swap low 5/8 to match 3-2.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I feel very dumb that I backed this and have been completely out of the loop on it.
I mean, I think we may have seen this at a PAX here.
Yeah. There's I even have a Steam key. Embarrassing.
That probably means you had a Steam key for some time because they gave them out forever ago.
No kidding. Well, I'm gonna give this a go.
I mean, honestly, I am impressed at what a cute story they have built out of a match 3 game.
I mean, visual novel with match 3 puzzles is sort of a pretty established genre at this point, honestly.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I did play Princess Farmer. I don't know. I feel like this one makes more sense somehow. I mean, it's still very silly, but it's really cute.
So I hear there's been a revival of Ultimate Chicken Horse.
So my son learned about Ultimate Chicken Horse from watching a streamer. And I was like, so it's one of those things where it's like, hey, we make sure that we monitor all of the games he's consuming if he's watching YouTube. And so my wife was like, what is Ultimate Chicken Horse? Is that okay for him to watch? I was like, yes, that's okay. I used to play that game.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's an amazing game.
And so I was like, hey, buddy, like, if you want, it's $5 on the Switch. We can just pick it up. And so we did. And now we've unlocked, I think, 18 of the 21 levels. Which does mean that we have played quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's having a really good time with it, and it's just a really fun game. Especially, like, I don't remember all of the inter-item interactions as much. Like, watching how a black hole and a crossbow interact has been very funny, and like, I can try and bend arrows. And like portals and like launchers and stuff, and like causing explosions to come out. And there's a whole, like, I don't remember if this was in the game the last time we played, but there's a whole bunch of like, you can create custom rule sets. And here's a couple of like pre-built rule sets that like really changes what the game is about. Do you want this to just be like a game about parkouring as fast as you can to the end? There's a mode for that. Like, we'll get rid of all of the traps, and it's just like you get way more points for being the first to get to the end.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all.
They made many updates to this game.
Yeah.
They're done making updates to it at this point, but like, things happened.
We recently unlocked the space level, which has like a tractor beam into an alien ship at the end. And it's very funny because right in front of the alien ship is the goal. So you're like trying to like make this jump that is like getting progressively lower gravity as the tractor beam sucks you in. But if you somehow miss the goal, you go into the alien ship and you lose. And so now you can create interesting obstacles around, like, what if we just put a floor underneath the goal? Like, that makes things really hard now.
Well, and they've got another game in the works that's called Ultimate Sheep Raccoon, which I think is what if Ultimate Chicken Horse were Excite Bike?
Yeah, that sounds really fun. Because, like, My favorite part about Excitebike was building the
Yes,
courses.
Oh,
yes.
always.
That was
yeah.
the best part. Like,
That was the
I
whole
build
point
the
of the
course
game.
for you, you build the course for me.
Oh, that sounds very good.
Man, childhood memories unlocked.
Yeah, like that was just the best part of Excitebike.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's also fun. Like one of the things that we do is like we create clever little bonus areas and then just stock them full of coins. And so it's like, hey, like I am always gonna try and get those coins, but maybe that means if you don't try and get the coins, you might get some wins off of me. And like you're able to fine tune how many like the percentage of points you get. So like I can get half as many points as my kid, and so it can kind of feel fair. It's a great game. I love Ultimate Chicken Horse. It's a great game to play with a kid too, and really has gotten him back into platforming, and he is now showing interest in like Celeste. So I'm just my heart is full. It was like today was a hard day for me, but playing Ultimate Chicken Horse with him was a good way to spend an afternoon. And it's also like it's a great game for him to play with his friends. Like I don't know, this is shockingly underrated game.
I just remember when I played this at PAX South, Ray like finding me and dragging me to the kiosk to play it
Mm-hmm.
because hilarious game.
It's a very funny game.
And like it doesn't have the same aspect that like playing some of the Mario levels with friends are, where you just want to like kill your friends. Like you're definitely against each other, but also at the same time, like just chaos evolves over time as you place more things, and no one's really to blame for it.
Yeah, it's like this is a collective mess that we've put ourselves into. Can any of us figure out a path forwards?
Yeah, this is everybody's fault.
It's very fun. Have we made this unwinnable?
Yo, we made this mess.
My favorite is
Be
when
surprised what you can win through.
Yeah, my favorite is when there's some absolute nonsense on the board, but somebody makes it through, and it's like, oh no, that's possible.
There are so many levels, and all of the levels feel distinct and different, which is another thing I find interesting.
I think my favorite levels are either Crumbling Bridge. Well, Crumbling Bridge is definitely a favorite, but also the computer one. I don't remember. It's called Core or something.
Mainframe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like Mainframe because Mainframe, it starts with just like a wide open space that you're probably not going to get through, and then there are these two screens, and as your character travels over those screens, like the pixels light up. The next round, all of the pixels that lit up are now blocks that you can stand on or block your path. But any pixels that you light up this time, the pixels that were there this turn go away and those come in. It's like, oh, what path are we leaving for ourselves next turn?
Yeah, like this is not maybe an obvious association, but playing it reminds me of playing Jenga.
We also really like Pyramid just because it's really fun to make the interior of the pyramid feel like full of death traps, and then you put coins in there.
The interior of the pyramid is trapped. Like Pyramid is fun, but I find going around the pyramid, no matter how many traps are there, easier than going through it.
Yeah, this is 100% true. But what if there are coins inside that pyramid? What if there's a section that now has 6 coins inside that pyramid because you've kept trying to get them turn after turn and keep failing? Surely this time you won't fail, right? But yes, I am excited for the idea of them making an Excitebike game.
Yeah, sometime this year. It is wish listable. I don't know when it's going to release. Deep Rock Galactic Survivor.
Wait, this is out?
Yep. So I never actually played Deep Rock Galactic, but Deep Rock Galactic Survivor is the thing, and that sure seemed like it might be up my alley. And it is. Um, it it's another auto shooter. It reminds me a little bit of Pesticide Not Required in that unlike Vampire Survivors, you actually have other objectives and specific things to do in each level while you're auto shooting and murdering things and picking up XP blobs. Yeah, you are playing as your dwarf and you're running around, uh, sort of 3D auto shooter and trying to mine as much as you can and get as much XP as you can uh, before you have to bail out. So I don't know. It's compelling.
Are you able to go, because you are a dwarf who mines, are you able to go through that wall over there to get out?
Yep.
Sweet. That was the best part of Deep Rock Galactic. It's like, yeah, we have to get out now. Well, I guess we go up.
Yeah, you can just mine your way out of things if you're fast enough at it.
You can
There's-
also mine your way into things.
yes.
Man, I gotta play more of that game. That game is really fun.
So yeah,
So, so you say it's an auto shooter 3D. Like, does that just mean you're kind of wandering around and like if there's something close to you, you just shoot at it?
Yep. It's you control your movement and that's pretty much it. And as you get XP, you can pick new weapons, speed up the reload time, power up your weapons and stuff. But yeah, you can't aim, you just automatically shoot at things that are near you.
Now, can you aim how you are mining?
I mean, you mine based on the direction that you're facing. So
Okay.
yeah, so you do have that control. Basically, going to mine whatever is in front of you. And I guess even for the auto shooter thing, like, I mean, like any of that style of game, some of the weapons shoot in front of you, some of them shoot, in a plus pattern, some of them will shoot the nearest enemy, sometimes they'll shoot the enemy with the highest health. So, as you get different weapons, you can kind of customize what you're going for. And there's some additional game modes and things. I haven't gotten super far into it. Basically, I think just unlocked a couple of dwarves and yeah, beat the sort of first zone. I think it has maybe 4 levels, 4 or 5 levels. So not super far in, but it's really fun. And again, like other auto shooter, bullet heaven, whatever you want to call them, it's sort of roguelite in that I'm getting materials that I can permanently buff some of my stats in between runs. But I'm looking forward to spending more time with it. I think the only problem I have is that it sort of scratches the same itch as Dwarven Realms. Fairly similar in a lot of ways in terms of play style and yeah, the loop. But I definitely want to spend more time with it. And I think it's still in early access. So the parts that I've played so far feel really polished and good. But yeah, it sounds like if you played Deep Rock Galactic, you might like it. I think if you like Vampire Survivors or Dwarven Realms, you probably have a good chance of enjoying it. The other thing that is interesting and a little bit new to me in this style of game is that there is an extraction element in that, like, you finish the objectives and then you have 30 seconds to get the heck out.
That is how Deep Rock Galactic works.
Yeah.
I kind of assumed that was coming from the original game, but
It absolutely is, because you've completed the objective, so the corporation doesn't need you anymore. So they're gonna just take the extractor and go. And if you're on it, cool.
yep, that tracks.
Like they don't need you on that extraction. Like that's not important to them. But if you are on it, that is a cool bonus for them.
Yep, that checks out.
Let's go for a clean sweep. Hey, Ash, I heard you have a new arcade cabinet.
I didn't even put this on the list. Anyway, yeah, I recently got a copy of U-Beat, a Konami arcade game that did not make it out of Japan despite 2 location tests, and used to have a mobile app that has also been discontinued. They don't want anybody to play this game here. I guess licensing music is expensive, but I have an arcade machine for it. This is an adventure, because you can't get an arcade machine for this new. They're not going to sell it to private individuals ever, especially not in the US. So I've been spending an amount of effort to disassemble this thing, clean it out. Its blowers look like they'd never been cleaned out ever. I have no idea how old this cabinet is. It is running Windows XP embedded, so that's saying something. And yeah, this is it will be interesting to get this order up and running. I've gotten it cleaned out, gotten it mostly reassembled, don't have the top marquee on it, which is funny because this machine is just like 3 cubes, and currently mine is only 2 cubes. But really neat game. They played it at GDQ this year, if you saw that last month. And I've gotten a chance to play it. There are 2 machines in town at private arcades. So yeah, really looking forward to getting this up and running.
Neat.
Any final thoughts, topics? We have probably gone a full show's worth.
I just wanted to say today was the day we had to put our cat Willow down. So rest in peace, Willow. She's been with us since I started podcasting, I believe.
It's always exceptionally difficult,
Yeah.
even when you know it's coming.
Yeah.
Really short topic. Y'all should go read My Best Friend's Exorcism. It's a delightful book. It's what if Judy Blume wrote horror?
Okay.
It's
gonna punch you straight in the 80s, 90s kids feels.
Yeah, it's one of those books where you read it and you're like, this book is definitely pandering to me, but also I'm enjoying it.
Also, I started Dungeon Crawler Carl. Thank you, Thalen, for recommending that.
You're welcome. It's just a dumb fun book.
Yup.
Also,
Princess Donut, best in show.
Princess Donut is, yes, the best. Princess Donut, the Queen Anne chunk.
Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.